Welcome to the day Mississippi stops. Ole Miss and Southern Mississippi takes on each other tonight in the Super Regional, which promises to implode the multiverse. No, I'm just kidding. This is the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast Extra Edition with Jason Bailey.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for joining us. You can see our Twitter handle down below. Follow me at @TheStephenWillis. On Twitter, we kind of post about everything, kind of have a little bit of fun, and thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast your first listen every day. I wanted to do this extra video for you as a kind of a super regional preview / thank you. And we have Jason Bailey coming up real quick to talk about the Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles, and we're going to talk about that series over and over again, and we're going to have fun. But as this is a reward for you, I do want to let you know what we are pushing towards. We're about 96% to our goal. We had 1,000 subscribers before the Troy game, which is like 3 months away. We will be doing post-game live with Ole Miss legends, high school coaches, and all that, talking about what happened. You can have your say. Over here will be a chat module. It'll look a lot like SEC After Dark, which happens on the Y'all's Conference Network. If you want to look at that on YouTube, just search Y'all's Conference Network, and you can see exactly what it would look like. But it should be a lot of fun. It should be about a half hour, and should be really, really fun. Anyway, BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting stats and sports information. Find all the latest sports developments, including news, odds, and including this year's basketball championship matchup, the NHL Hockey Conference Finals, Major League Baseball, and of course, the latest fighting news from MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. For instance, if you see that, you'll see that Ole Miss is a 21.5 point favorite over Troy week 1. You'll see that they're projecting Ole Miss to win 7.5 games in the regular season. Whether you agree with that or not, there's the place where you can go rectify whatever you believe. Anyway, BetOnline, where the game starts. Coming up in just a second, we will be talking to Jason Bailey about the Ole Miss Southern Mississippi series right after this message. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including iTunes. So don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes. You can give us a 5-star review. Say whatever you want to say. You can talk about how I do not know what I'm talking about, but I have really good guests. And one of those is right here. Jason Bailey from To The Top Talk is joining us today to talk about the day that Mississippi stops, the Super Regional in Hattiesburg. How you doing, Jason?
Doing great, man. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was kind of a crazy time actually getting set up. You know, storms rolled through Hattiesburg a couple hours ago. Power went out. There's trees down everywhere, flooding down up and down Hardy Street and 49. And it's a good thing, I guess, that our regional doesn't start until Saturday, because this would have been absolutely no fun out at the Pete for sure. But yeah, man, so I actually came up to a local bar, 4th Street Bar here. If any of your listeners come into town and they are looking for somewhere to go before or after or even during, 4th Street Bar is the closest bar to Pete Taylor Park. So you can come right down here and grab you a cold one.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we get started, what does this series and this Super Regional and being able to host this weekend against Ole Miss mean to Southern Mississippi and Hattiesburg?
Man, it's really cool. You know, I think even though we're fairly highly ranked all the way through the season, it seems like we found ourselves wondering kind of how good we actually were for a long. You know, we win a ton of games. You know, with 3-2, 6-5, stuff like fairly low scoring games, and which is a calling card for your pitching staff. But at the same time, you're starting to creep up the rankings. You're like, man, are we really that good? I don't know. And so to make it to this point, and then lo and behold, have the Ole Miss Rebels coming to town. It's kind of a big deal. I think it would be a big deal for any state, but particularly a state of our size. And then, you know, we don't always play each other in all the sports. So, yeah, it's probably got a little bit extra riding on it, I'd say.
Yeah, it should be pretty intense in Pete Taylor Park. I actually call the Southern Miss baseball team the turf bags, but that's just because y'all don't have any dirt on your field, and y'all just grit and just find a way to get wins. I saw that during your regional and it looked very impressive. Instead of dirt bags, I can't really call you dirt bags, so I go with turf bags. But it's a term of endearment. Yeah, it's a term of endearment. But Scott Berry really has you guys cooking. I've said multiple times on my show that Southern Miss is the best baseball team in the state of Mississippi. They've earned it. They've earned the right to host the regional. They've earned the right to host the super regional. But how do you feel about your program right now? It's actually quite impressive.
Yeah, well, I think we're the only school in the country that can hang their hat on. Was it 6 straight season with 40 or more wins? It was us and Dallas Baptist going into this year, so they didn't make it. So we're the only one. So I mean, that speaks to the consistency that Scott Berry has us, going at right now. But I mean, honestly, man, going back, 20 years probably, this has been a pretty consistent program. Maybe haven't made it to the top, so to speak, year in and year out, but just solid all the way around. And since Coach Oz has gotten here, it seems like the pitching staff has taken us a little bit further, which I always thought was weird because in our park, I always thought that we would have to be able to hit the ball. If you're going to be successful at Pete Taylor Park, the ball flies out of there, the wind's blowing out, 80% of the games. I always thought that to be super successful, you had to have a team kind of like Ole Miss has got right now that just absolutely mashes, kind of like LSU. Or in our conference, Old Dominion could just totally smash the ball. And we hit okay. 80-something home runs is nothing to shake your head at. But our big deal is pitching. And we have 3 starters that can stack up against anybody. And you can go 4 or 5 deep in the bullpen of pitchers that opposing teams do not want to see walking out there. So that's our big thing is pitching and defense. And when we get hot with the bat, we're really tough to deal with.
Yeah, we saw that in the Oxford Regional last year whenever y'all started knocking the ball over the park.
That was crazy, wasn't it? Every team. It was phenomenal. Anyway, I went to McGee High School. So back when McGee was 4A, we were in a division with West Jones and Laurel, all those schools in that area. And it was particularly tough for us in baseball because you play the West Jones, you play the Laurels, you go play Petal, you play Oak Grove, and you see what baseball is in the Pine Belt in Mississippi. Is this Southern Mississippi team like the foundationally recruited off of that area? Because I see a lot of familiarity whenever I look out there. Yeah, I mean, there's tons of Mississippi kids, and I was listening to the Crooked Letter podcast earlier today with Rick and Rick's son, and anyway, they talked about that. I mean, you get Pearl River Junior College just won the Natty right down the road, right? That's like 35 minutes from Hattiesburg. All those schools you just mentioned are all within 35 minutes away from Hattiesburg. So yeah, there's talent everywhere. If you're not recruiting those guys, you're probably messing up. But we've also got the talent from the Jackson area. I mean, you look around, look at Justin Storm, who had just one heck of an effort last week against LSU from right up the road at Madison Central. We've Dalton Rogers and Garrett Ramsey from the Northwest Rankin area school. So yeah, I mean, you know how it is, man. With the state of Mississippi, you can probably draw like an hour radius around from whatever school you're dealing with, Ole Miss, State, or Southern. And if you only recruit that area, you're probably still going to be pretty damn good. So it's an advantage. It's a little different having so many junior colleges in the state, but that's how much talent there is here. I mean, State wins the national championship last year, and now with Ole Miss and Southern Miss in the Super Regional, we're guaranteed to have another school in the World Series. So it's pretty remarkable when you think about it. I mean, this for a state of this size to have that kind of impact on one particular sport is just, pretty incredible.
All right, let's move on to the game. What should Ole Miss fans look for from Southern Mississippi? Give me some players to look for to watch.
Well, we mentioned the pitchers earlier. So, Hurston Waldrop, I think Hurston might be I don't know if that's been announced yet or not, but Hurston Waldrop's probably going to start that first game. He's normally our Sunday starter.
Okay.
Hurston throws the ball really, really hard. He's got a first round arm talent. He'll light it up around 100 miles an hour. Probably sit at 97. And he's kind of a two-pitch guy. You'll see a changeup every now and then. It's kind of a split change, but for the most part, he's just gas and like a 90-mile-an-hour slider. So that's probably who you're going to see on Friday, I would think. If not him, maybe it's Tanner Hall or Hunter Riggins.
Tanner's on Saturday. Yeah, Riggins is on.
Okay.
Game 3. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So with Tanner, he was Conference USA Pitcher of the Year. He's All-American. If you hear some screaming in the background, that's my 5-year-old playing at the bar on the pool table with my wife. So,
all right.
But anyway, so Tanner is as solid as they come. He's a strike thrower, pounds the zone. He's probably got a plus changeup if you're looking at a scouting report. He'll sit in a normal, 90 to 93 range. Not completely overpowering, but just crazy numbers. I don't have them pulled up in front of me, but I want to say he's around 130 strikeouts and like 10 walks. So just will completely pound the zone and get it done that way. And as far as the hitters go, Dustin Dickerson, our shortstop, has led the team in hitting this year average-wise, hitting .326 on the season. Several guys got a little pop in the bat. None more than Christopher Sargent, who just went off in the regional, was named the regional player of the turn, regional MVP. He's hitting .273 on the year with 21 home runs, so he can knock it around a little bit. Carson Pato, freshman phenom from Van Cleve, Mississippi, with 16 home runs himself. Will McGillis, it feels like he's been here forever, 16 home runs, and Reese Ewing with 10 home runs. And you can't talk about the lineup without talking about the Montenegro brothers either. You got Rodrigo Montenegro, who's the newest Montenegro on the team, but also Gabe Montenegro having another fantastic year, hitting at a 280 clip. We've used him in the 9 hole. We've used him in the leadoff hole. He's been in center field. He's been in left field. So those are some key guys that I would look for if you're coming to the game, or if you're going to watch it on TV. For Southern Miss to be successful, those guys are probably going to have to do some damage. And I didn't even talk about Danny Lynch. Danny Lynch is the guy that hit the home run against Ole Miss in Pearl this year for the victory. So we've got guys that can swing it. Probably not quite as well as Ole Miss, but plenty good enough to get the job done, considering the kind of starting pitching this team normally has.
Yeah, should be really interesting seeing. Should be a real fun series at Pete Taylor Park. Before I get out of here, I do want to ask you, how's the Sun Belt move going? What are you hearing about that? Is that going to be a really beneficial thing for Southern Miss?
Dude, we love it. Don't forget, we were all in on Conference USA when it
back
started.
In the day, yeah.
But it's just a shell of itself at this point, and it got expanded. we were used to having Houston and having Cincinnati, and Cincinnati just played for a national title, right? UCF, and don't forget about Tulane right down the road, and Memphis, and every one of those teams are going. So, did we like having teams like La Tech rolling in? Yeah, we did. But with this Sun Belt move, number one, I think it's a better conference football-wise right off the bat. Basketball is probably even. Once you add us and Old Dominion to the Sun Belt, I think that's going to push them over the top as far as compared to Conference USA. So do we like it? Yeah. And look, if there's one thing, I'm not an SEC guy. I don't, it's not my deal. I'm just a Southern Miss guy, and that's it. But if there's one thing I've ever been envious of the SEC teams, is you guys have the ability to go watch all the games. Well, we've never had that. We literally had a trip last year. Was it last year or year before? Where 1 week we're in El Paso, Texas, and the next week we're in Miami, Florida. That's just impossible. That's literally across an entire continent. Now with this Sun Belt move, there are 9 teams within 4 hours driving distance of Hattiesburg. This is something we've never had. So, I had to tell my wife, look, it's not just 6 Saturdays anymore. You gotta get ready for me to be gone, at least 8 or 9 Saturdays. So we're looking forward to it. It's hopefully it's gonna be a great time.
Yeah, and we're really changing the subject now that everything's going, but I just have some questions. Will Hall has completely rebuilt that roster in Hattiesburg, and he used the transfer portal. He just went and cherry picked part-time starters at both State and Ole Miss. And how's that going? What does that look like?
Man, Coach Hall is the real deal. He's man, every time you might be the same way. Whenever we hire a new head coach, I try my best not to get emotionally attached. But here I am again. Because Coach Will Hall would just endear himself to anyone. He's a Mississippi guy through and through. He knows the footprint. He knows everybody. Like when you hear Will Hall talk, he doesn't just say, I watched some tape on the kid. He says, no, I know his aunt. I know his dad. And if you're a Pittman from McGee, that means that you can play because I saw your daddy play. I mean, and he literally knows all these people. So he fits what Southern Miss does just from a mindset, from a recruiting standpoint. He's a smaller guy, right? He went to a Division II school. He won their version of the Heisman Trophy there. He's probably told his whole life that he's not big enough and he's not fast enough, and that's kind of what Southern Miss was built on. And and when he came in, he had to do some serious surgery to the roster. We had so many guys on our team that had one offer, and it was the Southern Miss. Well, we don't have any of those guys anymore. Now, when you're looking at guys, there's several offers on the table, or like you said, if you go to Ole Miss State, if you want to throw like Alabama in there, some of those teams that maybe you wish you could get a little bit more playing time, and honestly, you're a little homesick. This is the place to be. So he's hit the ground running. He is the most high intensity, most positively impactful person that I've ever met, and I'm sure glad he's on our side.
Yeah, and also enjoy Tylen Knight. Ole Miss fans love him, even though he's 5'7", 160 pounds, soaking wet. He is going to give it all for you, and he will endear himself to the whole fan base. Good luck to him.
Yeah, he's a ball hawk. I've talked to a couple coaches out in the Roost during baseball season, and his name keeps popping up. So he can do it. I can't wait to watch him play.
Yeah. All right. Now, the one last thing, and this is not going to endear me to the old people and the Ole Miss fan base. I have been on 20 years saying Ole Miss and Southern Miss need to play in football again. This has been an overall thing. I've quoted Keith Carter. I've talked to Jeremy McClain. I've hit him on Twitter. They need to get together and play the game. I was at the last game in 1984. Mm-hmm. All I remember from it was Bill Smith hit a 92-yard punt, but it looked really cool because the Ole Miss fans all wore red, the Southern fans all wore yellow. But this is a game at this point, it needs to be played. Back then, I can understand a little bit of their argument. The athletic departments were kind of on even footing. Everybody made about the same amount of money. Everything was going. But now Southern Miss athletic budget is what, 25, 30 million? And Ole Miss is over 100 million. That gap is really stretched out. So in my opinion, and I'm not saying this to denigrate Southern Miss at all, but I view playing Southern Miss the same as if you play Troy, if you play Louisiana Monroe, if you play Tulane. It's the same to me. And to me, Southern Miss wanting to beat Ole Miss, you should want teams to want to beat you. Everybody wants to beat Alabama, but Alabama doesn't say, no, we're not going to play any of y'all.
Yeah, man, I've been at this so long. There was a time where I kind of thought like you did. And, I mean, you mentioned the athletic budget. I wasn't in school that damn long ago. I'm 45 years old, graduated in 2001. I remember the budgets at the time. I think Southern Miss was like 22. Ole Miss was like around 40. Getting the $45 million check for free every single year sure doesn't hurt the budget. But I mean, the gap is – and but to your second point about playing, man, I don't care anymore, to be honest with you. It doesn't – Mississippi State came here. It was probably one of the worst times I've ever had.
Really?
It was. I think so much time went by that I don't know if people can have cordial tailgating or anymore. I'm not positive if that can happen. A lot of people still like it. Maybe I'm just the old guy yelling at the cloud here and get off my lawn. But I kind of saw a little bit of it, and I would imagine Ole Miss would be maybe to double what that was with Mississippi State. So,
Yeah, I think we'd get a preview of what that looked like this weekend, honestly.
Yeah, but you know, I think I'm just kind of over it, man. Like,
Okay.
I wanted it for a long time, but now if it happens, whatever. If it doesn't, it's very low on the stuff that I'm concerned about.
Okay. Well, always good to ask a Southern Miss fan, but like I said, I've got 20 years built in on this, and I'm not going to stop my opinion now. But a lot of people in the Ole Miss fan base do not like me because of that opinion, and I'm not afraid to say it to anybody.
Well, if you aren't ruffling some feathers in this business, you're not doing your job.
Yeah. It's like, okay, you want to be mad at me? Okay. If you don't want to listen, I'm sorry, you know. But anyway, Jeremy, thank you very much. Or Jason, thank you for joining the show. I wanted to call you Jeremy Bailey for whatever reason. I don't know. I must have met one at some point. But Jason Bailey, thank you so much for joining us from Southern Miss to the Top Talk. And this is just going to be a really fun series, and I'm glad you hopped on with me, man.
Yeah, man. Are you coming down?
No, I'm actually stationed where I live. I'm in Winter Haven, Florida.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
cool.
that would be like a 13-hour drive for me.
Yeah, about like it's gonna be for us going to Omaha. What?
But it'd be like 30 hours for me. Anyway, seriously, best of luck to you. I hope y'all have a lot of fun out in the roost, and I hope Pete Taylor is just off the hook this weekend.
Cool, man. I really appreciate you having me on.
All right, man.
Got it?
Yes.